Step 1. Preheat that oven to 350 degrees. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Pumpkin Patch. I'm your host today, Jessica Moser. And today I'm going to take you through making some pumpkin snickerdoodles. I found this recipe on the internet. I've never tried it before. So you guys are gonna ride with me as we try this new recipe that I found, and let's see what we think. First step is preheating the oven to 350. So I'm gonna show you a quick video of doing that, and then we'll get into this recipe and see what we think. Step 1 is to line some baking sheets with parchment paper. The recipe recommends you only do this for one baking sheet, but I put cookies on 2 baking sheets at a time, and my cookies usually come out okay. So I'm gonna put it on both. I'm also gonna, I use the handy dandy like Costco parchment paper. You can buy like a 3-year supply at Costco for a very cheap price. But I mean, you buy your parchment paper wherever you want. I'll be cutting it to the size of the cookie sheets along with this. I'll show you guys in just a minute how I'm doing that. But I highly recommend doing that. If you have some overhang on your cookie sheets, you possibly can catch your oven on fire. And I'm not saying that I know that from experience. Of course not. Of course that would not be how I found this out. But I'm very careful to do that ever since a specific incident that I may or may not have knowledge about. Our cookie sheets have seen some better days, for sure. Then I lay the non-curly edge down so it fits nicely in there. And that just makes it easy to get cookies off the sheet. All right, here's my other one. It's a little bit more lopsided because I was a little bit more aggressive with the way I cut it, but as long as you don't have a ton of overhang, I don't think your oven will catch on fire necessarily. So the first part of this recipe, after we prepped our cookie sheets, so we're ready to put cookies on them as soon as we're done prepping the dough. And so now this recipe is a little different in that it calls for us to mix together all the wet ingredients before we mix together the dry ingredients. Let's go for it. So first we're gonna get half a cup of butter, half a cup of pumpkin puree, 1.5 cups of sugar, and 1 egg. Gonna add all those to the bowl, cream them together. I'm using a KitchenAid mixer. You can see it back here. I'm using this attachment that has the little thing that scrapes the edge of the bowl. You still have to do some scraping at the edges of the bowl even with this, but it is an extremely helpful tool, and I think that it's like worth the price. So if you don't have a KitchenAid mixer, you can of course still do this. I made baked goods for years without KitchenAid mixers, but it is really helpful, and this tool specifically is very helpful. One thing I like to do when I bake is just go ahead and get all my ingredients out and ready so I can use them. So we got the butter, sugar, pumpkin, and all my good stuff here. The first ingredient that I'm gonna add is the sugar. So we're adding 1.5 cups of sugar. 1.5 cups of sugar is in there. And then the next thing I'm gonna add is the butter. And so I got these Land O'Lakes like unsalted butter, and so they come in the little like half sticks, which I love because it helps keep your butter fresher. So I really enjoy that. When I'm adding the butter, even though it's been softened to room temperature, I just took it out of the refrigerator this morning, and it's about 1 o'clock now, so it's pretty soft. But I'm still cutting it into little cubes. And my hands are clean. I didn't show you guys, but I did, of course, wash my hands before I started this. But I feel like it just helps the butter better incorporate into the other wet ingredients. So I do like to cut it up before I add it. That's a personal preference. I'm not saying you absolutely have to, but it is something that I prefer to do. All right, add our egg too. We use Libby's pumpkin in this house. I know some people do their own, like they'll get a pie pumpkin and make their own pumpkin puree. I've never done that, but like leave a comment down below if you've done that before and how hard or easy you thought it was to do, because I'd love to hear more about it. Also, I'd love to hear more about what your favorite pumpkin treats are. All right, I'm gonna grab a fork. So I'm just gonna take this like bowl scraper. That's how I normally take the pumpkin from the can into the measuring cup. I feel like a bowl scraper works well to scoop it out. I think that's actually enough. Let's see. That's about half a cup. I like using the bowl scraper to scrape the pumpkin out because of like the viscosity of the pumpkin. I feel like it's helpful. So, let's mix these wet ingredients all together. All right, so I'm gonna use the bowl scraper at this point. So if you're also using a KitchenAid mixer, I've added it to like the 6 mark. The only problem I'm seeing is that the butter is still like pretty clumpy in here. So I am going to take my plastic fork that I was using earlier and try to break it up just a little bit. Even though the butter's softened to room temperature, it's still pretty clumpy. I'm gonna give that one more spin, and then we'll start to add our dry ingredients after that. And I've also washed my hand in this process. It's gonna need to happen. Next step is gonna be to add dry ingredients. The butter's still kind of clumpy, but I'm hoping once we start adding the dry ingredients, that'll get a little better. So we'll see. I don't know. But the first thing we're gonna add for the dry ingredients is 3 cups of flour, and also I'm gonna there'll be a photo of this recipe and a link in the description down below as well, in case you're following along at home. But the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add 3 cups of all-purpose flour. I'm using this King Arthur gluten-free cup for cup. It's great if you're gluten-free, which I am. This King Arthur's, I call it the fancy brand. One of my sisters-in-law also has a corn allergy and a gluten allergy, and this also doesn't have any corn products in it. So hugely helpful for both of those things. So I'm gonna spoon and then level off. Spooning and leveling off just helps you get some air into the flour. It helps it mix better. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this 5 more times. You guys don't need to see me do that every single time. And I'm also gonna go ahead and start the KitchenAid mixer to start incorporating this in there, and then I'm just gonna dump the flour as I go. I'm just adding the flour a little bit at a time. Ooh. All right, we're looking like proper cookie dough now. I had to turn the KitchenAid app to get it to all incorporate, and it looks like it's smoothed out a lot. There's no more clumps of like butter, which is a great sign. I'm very excited about that. Again, I've never made this recipe before. So this recipe calls for 1 teaspoon of cream of tartar, which cream of tartar is a pretty integral part of any Snickerdoodle recipe, so you'll see that a lot. And then we're also adding 2 teaspoons of baking soda. And then you're getting a teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. The recipe has an alternative. You can mix your own pumpkin pie spice if you don't have any at home, but we always have pumpkin pie spice here because we are a spooky household. All right, so we're gonna mix this again. So we're doing a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So I'm just filling up this part of the way and adding it in there. All right. Take it up, scrape the bowl, see if we need to blend anything else before we move on to the next step. So sometimes if you're in a higher or lower altitude, it does affect the way your dough feels and looks. Like this is a little stickier than I was expecting necessarily, but the pumpkin puree makes it a little stickier. Depending on that, like you may want to add a little bit more flour. We'll see when we get into it if we do, because we're gonna roll this into balls. It's gonna be harder to roll into balls if it's like too sticky. All right, one of the things that makes Snickerdoodle's like signature is that you roll the cookie dough in a cinnamon and sugar mixture, and so that like coats the outside of the cookie. It just makes it a little different. And so what you're gonna do is I'm gonna use 3 tablespoons. I think Recipe calls for 2. And then I'm going to use 3 teaspoons of cinnamon. And again, this is a half a teaspoon. This does not require perfection. So I'm just making this mixture to roll the dough in. And then the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take off my ring like a wayward husband at a club. And then I'm going to scoop a little bit more than a teaspoon out, roll it around in my hands, roll it around in the cinnamon sugar mixture, and then put it on our pre-prepared. All right, I'm gonna do this about 1,000 more times and I'll be right back to show you like next. One of the things that I try to go for here is I'm trying to go for evenness with the sizes, because that's the way they'll bake the best. You're never gonna perfectly achieve that. Even though I was worried about it being a little sticky, it's honestly, I'm able to work fine and I'm not getting a ton of dough on my hands. That's a good sign that it's working like it's supposed to. So yay us. I'm getting approximately a teaspoon worth of dough. You can make them all bigger or smaller. That's my preferred methodology. I don't want to make them too big because they're gonna be soft in the middle and like a little crunchy on the edges. That's the goal. And so I don't want to make them so big that they're so soft in the middle that they're not like appetizing to eat. And I still feel like I'm getting a good coating and coverage. I'll add sugar or cinnamon to this mix when I think that the coating is wrong. But I do want to get it, I want to roll it around in there and get it fully, I want every side of this to be fully coated in that cinnamon sugar mixture. All right, these are ready to go in the oven. They're going in the oven at 350, 8 to 10 minutes. So I'm going to set the timer for 8 minutes. And the other thing that this recipe says to do that I don't normally do is it says to flatten them. Normally I let them flatten in the oven, but it says do that with the back of a spoon or a fork, so I'm gonna go through and flatten these. All right, let's put them in the oven. I put the rest of the pumpkin puree that we didn't use in a container, in a Pyrex. You can store this in the refrigerator for a while. It won't last forever, but it'll last 6 months in the fridge. So that's what I do. We'll have more pumpkin treaties coming, and I'll definitely use this. Almost time to check the cookies. I mean, honestly, with 10 seconds left, we can do it regardless. All right, I'm just gonna turn the timer off. We're just gonna take a look. So I just kind of visually look at the cookies. If they have the little cracks in the top, I feel like they're pretty much done. But I'm gonna get in here and all right, they feel done to me. So I feel like they're in good shape. I feel like they're ready to come out. All right, so when they're first done, I like to put them on this elevated cooling rack. But I'm gonna leave them on the cookie sheet for a little while because I want them to solidify a little more before I take them off the parchment paper. You can pull the parchment paper off and put them all on the cooling rack directly. I just want them to cool a little bit so they won't completely tear apart. All right, directly on the cooling rack now. They look good, they smell amazing. I'm going to sneak one because I'm the chef. Still a little bit gooey. I might have let them go for 10 minutes if I had to do it over again. But they'll harden up a little bit. I was like, cool. Really good and very pumpkin spicy. I'd highly recommend this recipe. We'll see what James thinks, and then I'm about to go to a fitness class, but when I get back, we'll wrap up this video. Good though. So some time has passed, so the cookies have cooled, so I'm gonna show you those in a minute. And I wasn't quite done with the batter when it was time for me to go to my dance class. So I went ahead and I put a Glad pretzel seal on top of the bowl, and I went ahead and put that in the refrigerator. I did that because, especially with pumpkin, pumpkin can kind of go bad because it's so wet. It can go bad and get a little gross if it's not baked real fast. So I prefer stuff with pumpkin. I prefer when it's still in batter format. I prefer to go ahead and put it in the fridge so that it doesn't spoil. So I'm gonna get it out, restart the oven, do the rest of the cookies, but I'm gonna show you what the finished product of the ones we did so far. I'm really excited about it. They're not as like gooey in the middle now, so I'm excited, I'm pumped. All right, here the cookies cooled, and you can see they really like solidified well. So I'm super happy with them, and I'm gonna do another like taste test now that they're cool. I feel like the pumpkin comes through really well. The spices come through really well. It is like soft, but not like doughy, as you can see. And it's cooked all the way through. That's quite good. All right, when James comes home, I'm gonna see what he thinks. And then we'll wrap up this video.
All right, so I've been very good. All right, I haven't made any noise. I haven't tried to distract anything because I heard there were some treats and I want a treat in my little raccoon paw. Oh, and what are these exactly?
They are pumpkin snickerdoodles.
They're soft. These are good. These are really good.
You like?
I love these.
Yay.
These are good. I love a soft cookie. I love pumpkin. I like cinnamon. I like things you make. I like these.
There's some pumpkin pie spice in it.
That's the heaven. There's someone at the door.
Is that?
Yeah. Is you not here? Could you get that? I'll get this. There's nobody at the door.
There's no one at the door. All right, so that was our making pumpkin slash pumpkin spice snickerdoodles for the first time. I like this recipe. It was easy to execute. Again, I'll throw that down in the comments. I also try to find a link. I took a picture of this from Facebook, so. But I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you liked this baking video. I was gonna do some more. I make some pumpkin muffins that I've been told are magical that I thought I'd share with you guys. But let me know what you guys think, or if you have any recipes that you would like me to try down in the comments, and I'll be glad to give it a shot. Again, I'm gonna convert everything to be gluten-free. You certainly do not have to do that if you're not gluten-free. A couple things I should have mentioned earlier. This recipe yielded about 36 cookies. Of course, your results will vary depending on how much volume you use per cookie. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you guys try this recipe again down in the comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say. I love baking. It's one of my favorite things to do, so let me know. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to click or treat. That's where you like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and thanks for riding with the Fall Horseman, where Halloween lives, and fall treats are forever. I feel like this could go in a number of directions. I feel like this part's gonna be snipped. Oh goodness. This thing I couldn't remember for a minute. That's not working. One moment. Doing videos when I'm partially sweaty, I guess, is a thing that we're gonna do now. I don't know. I guess this is my choice. Anyway,